All right, it's Patrick Rogers. Today we have the privilege to have Brett Greene on the show, and Brett's the president of Willington Nameplate Incorporated. Welcome to the show, Brett.
Thanks for having me.
Awesome, great to have you. So, again, Brett Greene, a little bit about him. He's the president of Willington Nameplate Incorporated, a second-generation family-run business doing over 12 million in annual revenue, so extremely successful. He has an accounting background coming out of University of Connecticut. He worked in the aerospace industry for most of his career at Pratt Whitney, Hamilton, and some other tier one suppliers. So, Brett, can't wait to dive into your company and what you guys have been doing to be successful. Before we get there, what's one interesting fact about yourself that not many people know?
I always use this one as when it comes up during icebreakers and stuff. So
Yeah.
I am Jewish. That is my religious background, and I was actually able to have my bar mitzvah in Israel.
Wow. Okay. So you had it in Israel. Did like all of your family fly over for it?
It was just my immediate family and my
Okay.
grandparents from my mom's side, who was the traditional or the legacy Jewish religious side. So yeah, that was their idea. They had friends over there and they set it all up. So we did a family trip. My sister, who was only a year older than me, also had her bat mitzvah at the same time. So it was a great experience for a 13-year-old.
I bet. Oh my gosh. That's like the pinnacle of bar mitzvahs, right?
Oh God,
To
yeah.
do it.
It was
Very
all
good.
the traditional things we did while we were there, and it was
Uh-huh.
a lot different than one would be here, that's for sure.
Absolutely. Well, cool. That's thanks for sharing it. That's a great interesting fact. Um, cool. So tell us about Willington Nameplate. What do you guys do?
So we make identification products, basically anything that cautions, instructs, or informs users of a given product. That could be branding, that could be all the nice little warning labels on your lawnmower that tell you don't put your hand here, it's
Okay.
hot, or there might be chemicals here, don't do that. Or it could just be a set of instructions. Step one, do this. Step two,
Yeah.
do that.
Yeah.
And that's what we do. And it's for a variety of different industries. Um, Aerospace, automotive, industrial, OEM, which would be like pump and valve manufacturers. Um, so yeah, we run the gamut, military, DoD, do a lot of stuff there. So we have a lot of good capabilities. The good thing is we can be a one-stop shopping for quite a few customers.
Gotcha. And how long have you been the president?
I've been the president now for 8 years.
Okay. Okay. So maybe take us through a little bit of your journey as the president and kind of help us understand what you have been able to do to really just bring it to the success level that you guys are at.
Sure. So when I first came on board, I came on board as the operations manager.
Okay.
The second generation ownership was running the business. There was a brother and sister. The brother was kind of my connection, and through networking, he brought me on here. And he was looking. They had only really had anyone from the family or potentially consultants help support the business. Uh,
Mm,
and he finally ventured out, and he had a lot of encouragement from uh, some close people to him that said, you got to find somebody outside the business and um, that has different set of skills and somebody that could really help take the company to the next level. And
yeah.
he and I were friends for some time, and he kept asking me and poking at me to come work for him, come work for him. And I
Mm,
had other opportunities at the time that were really good, and it just didn't work out. But then the time it came around, so I came on board here. And the great thing is it's a 7-minute commute from my house, so it's super close,
perfect.
which is great. And you could just get the sense. So my first visit here, when I toured around and talked to people, it was great. Just it's a good culture. You can feel the vibe of the employees, which is not something you get working at those bigger, larger companies, right? Of the UTC umbrella and all those. You're more just a number. Here, everybody's got a face, everybody's got a story, everyone contributes. You're touching everything within the business. So I really like that opportunity. So that's why I came on board. I started out as the operations manager. And after about a year, or I think 2 years, they promoted me to general manager. So I ended up taking over the front end of things as well. And then within about a year or two of that, he promoted me to president. He was a very smart guy in that regard. He knew his limitations. He knew what he was capable of.
Gotcha.
He knew that he didn't have all those answers. And, that's pretty humbling, right? When you're running a company, and to kind of take that ownership to know, where you end and where someone else might begin.
Yeah.
Uh, so I certainly give him a lot of credit for that.
Yeah, the ability to kind of self-reflect and truly, where do my skill sets, where do I tap out, and then recognizing that somebody else, humble enough to recognize that somebody else can maybe do a better job than I can.
Yeah, yes. And so I've been leading the company ever since. A lot of the big changes there were just uh, it was a hardworking company. I mean, that's how we got to be successful.
Yep.
Perseverance is it's a
Yep.
great term for it, but there wasn't a lot of structure. There wasn't good leadership in place at various levels.
Okay.
So really, that's what I've been. I early on, I spent the majority of my time working on the structure. You know, what's the proper structure for the company we are for the company we want to be.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Continuously bringing on different people in leadership positions from outside the company, getting those outside experiences,
Mm-hmm.
um,
Mm-hmm.
and different mindsets. So over the last few years, 5 years, I've worked on that. I have a brand new financial leader here,
Mm-hmm.
brand new operations manager here, brand new customer service, business development leader here, and a new quality leader too. So we've really transformed the whole leadership team, and really with the vision of continuing to grow the business and grow the depth of our employees.
Yeah. What kind of growth have you guys been experiencing?
So when I first got here, we were about $8 or $9 million. So
Okay. Yeah.
in the 10 or 12 years, we've gotten up to almost 13 now. Last year was a record year for sales and profitability. That's probably been one of the bigger things we've been working on. Not so much the top line, which is great, but working on the overall profitability of the business. And that's been light years ahead of where it ever has been, all while continuing to contribute new capital and other investments uh, to the organization. So we're doing a lot of that without wasting a lot of cash or having to take on any debt.
That's good. So, kind of going back to what you talked about when you first showed up, that you identified that there was kind of this lack of structure and a lack of leadership. Well, what did you do, for the CEOs that are out there that kind of self-reflect on their own companies and see, hey, I'm well, number one, what led you to realize that there was a lack of structure there? How did you know that?
I could tell by the gaps in communication.
Okay.
Mm, there's big communication gaps. The proper information wasn't getting to the right individuals.
So
Uh,
between who? Between like the top leadership and the hands on
Absolutely,
deck?
more so. I think the team out on the floor, the production team, they kind of did their thing. They were doing their thing, but we had a lot of gaps in our vision, our approach, what our strategy was. What direction was the company
Mhm.
going? Things were very scattered, very hodgepodge, and it just wasn't a very clear and communicated path.
Yeah, yeah, it was kind of like they're subdivided units, maybe going in different priorities, different directions. So then you identified that. Then what did you actually do to, the actual tangibles of what kind of a system or process or what kind of a structure did you put in place to, it sounds like, unify everybody and put them all in alignment?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is just opening up those channels of communication. So we had our operations manager or the production manager at the time who was reporting to me, and he had like 50 people all reporting to him. It was just way too big of a
It's too
span
much, right? Yeah.
of individuals, right, reporting to one person. And oh,
Mhm.
by the way, he's also kind of overseeing facilities, he's overseeing this and that. When is he going to have time to really grow and develop people or even communicate what's important and any kind of vision or strategy? It's not going to happen,
Wasn't gonna happen.
right?
Yeah.
So we started putting in place the working level lead position, right? So they would be basically adjunct supervisors on the floor, but still working. But they would be more tied into getting communication through all levels of the organization, and staying in sync with what needs to be done to satisfy our customer needs. So that was a big one. And then just continuing to work with the leadership team, putting strategy, structure in place. So I did start up. We had never. What was not in place was an annual strategic planning session, and structure to that. How we go about that, developing a sales plan, developing expense budgets, CapEx budgets, all that stuff. It was all very ad hoc. And there was, like I said, no structure to it. So we put that in place, and we've been doing that annually for about 10 years now. And it's
Gotcha.
gotten better every year.
Yeah, right. Okay. nowhere to go but up when there's nothing there, especially.
Right, right.
So the strategic planning session, is that something that like the management team, the executive team attends type thing?
Yeah, so what we do is we usually kick it off. We're a fiscal year of April 1st through March, so we're in our fourth quarter currently,
Hmm. Hmm.
and we kick it off usually in January.
Hmm.
With that, the individual leadership team members are responsible for their budgets, headcount, and costs for the upcoming year. Obviously, the customer service business development leader is responsible for the sales plan, working with our salespeople and our inside sales team. And then we do a general CapEx budget, which is all the IT needs, and also obviously the facility needs and any new equipment. So we boil all that together. Then what we do is we have a final meeting presentation just for the leadership team. We do usually bring in the next level down as well for that meeting.
Okay. Yeah.
And then usually about a month after that, once that's wrapped up, we will do a slightly higher level for the entire employee base. And that's really tying that whole alignment piece back in so that everybody's on the same page as to what's the direction, what are we working on, what's our area of focus this year, and how am I going to contribute?
Yeah, I love that. So it's almost like it sounds like it's kind of a waterfall prioritization. You start with the executive team and
Yep.
kind of plan out and chart out the direction of the year in 3 years or whatever it is. And then the next meeting you kind of bring in the next level down of management, the
Yes.
middle management, educate them, further diagnose it. Maybe there's other ideas, but they're still involved in it.
Yep.
And then from there, it's an all hands meeting, it sounds like, where you're informing the entire company directly. And all of that occurs within like a month's period of time, something like that.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah, I
Yep.
love that. Yeah, I love that waterfall approach. Um, very good. And so you had also mentioned that having monthly one-on-ones
Yes.
with, yeah, tell us more about that.
So that was something I got through networking, just an opportunity. You know, it was always kind of have very infrequent heart to hearts, I'd say, with my leadership team,
Uh-huh.
and just getting a consistent structure. Um, every month, there's a dedicated time frame. It's only about a half hour. I sit
Mm,
down with every member of my leadership team, and we go through kind of a fixed set of questions, focusing on their needs, what are their priorities, you know, where do they need support or resources, and then I always end that session with, well, what can I do better for you? You know, where are my gaps? What are any shortcomings or things that are going good that I can do better,
yeah.
or even better? And so it's a kind of an open-ended, sit down, informal, but it allows us the opportunity to stay in constant sync, and make sure that we're working on the right stuff, and that I'm giving them the proper resources to
Yeah,
achieve the goals that they need to get to.
totally. And when did you start doing that? Was that something you started doing right away?
Yeah, no, actually, I've only been doing that for probably like two years now or so, 2 or 3 years.
Okay. Okay. And what's been the feedback from the executive team on that?
They really like it.
They do?
They
Yeah.
do, because the structure, they like having the
Hmm.
opportunity in the forum where there's just the one-on-one time. You know, most of the other times might just be in a group setting. So yeah, and they know that they can be open and honest with me, and we can take it and we can talk it through and come through with whatever improvements we need to make, whether it's mine or theirs.
Yeah. I love that. And I think that is a great opportunity for leaders to keep the relationship up. It's a huge retention builder, right? Because you're giving them an open forum, you're caring. And a lot of people think, well, it's just, they don't have time for it or they don't really want to do it. And the truth is, you're right, they do. They want that structure, they
Yeah,
want the structure in that time with the CEO. So do you kind of influence them or um, inspire them or try to have them do the same thing with their management?
absolutely. Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Specifically, well, with everyone, but our customer service leader, Natasha, has been really doing a nice job doing that. She does it on a quarterly basis with her team, but that includes all the customer service representatives, the business development, inside sales, and that. So, and now I'm really trying to get my ops guy to start doing that as well. But he's obviously got the largest pool, but they can make it manageable, right? Get some of those working leads involved to help with that. Just I think everybody just appreciates that forum. It doesn't always have to be with the top brass, right? As long as it's someone maybe in some level of authority that they can talk to and have open and honest discussion. Plus, it makes what I love is it makes those annual review times that much easier. It's you've already
Totally.
talked about most of this stuff, and it's
Yeah.
really just a high level summary and working on, okay, well, now what are we going to work on next year?
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yes, continuing to try and flow it down, but it's a little harder at the lower levels.
Well, it's interesting you say that, it doesn't have to be the top brass. And I think, the Gallup polls, they talk about that most people that are unhappy in their workplace, it's not even really the top brass, it's their immediate manager. And
Yeah.
so having that relationship and those one-on-ones with the immediate manager is sometimes some of the most important things to an employee. So yeah, you guys are on the right track there. Very cool. So, when we talked about I always ask the question, what's the biggest learning opportunity that you had in your
Mhm.
journey? And you had said that you were, not being aggressive enough in letting employees go who were not a good fit, which
Yes.
I hear a ton. But having said that, every CEO has their own experience on what happened, or one or two stories around that. Would love to hear yours.
Yeah. The biggest, one of the bigger eye openers was just during the pandemic here, right? When everything hit back in 2019, 2020.
Hmm.
And, we had to assess our business. We got clobbered pretty much right away.
Right.
We're down almost 40, 50% on the top line
Mm.
with no end in sight. So after a few months of that and knowing that, we made the hard decision that we needed to look to trim our employee base. And we
Hmm.
went through an exercise where we literally like assessed every individual
Oh, gotcha. Hmm.
with the leadership team
Right.
and looking just to the fit of the organization.
Mm.
And I'll say it was sad to say that we had enough people on the list that we deemed weren't good fits to the organization that were right around the headcount we were looking to reduce.
Mm.
So that's a big aha moment to say, why do we have this many people still working here if we deem that they're not good fits to the organization?
Yeah.
Well, because for various reasons, when it boils down, we just were not aggressive enough or didn't empower ourselves enough to say, hey, we'll be okay without that person, or, it's better not to have that resource here, deal with the short-term consequences, but have a better organization for it. You always get too short-sighted thinking of the woe is me and what's going to happen versus, hey, wow, this is going to be a great thing for the long-term future of our organization. And it did. It turned out that much better, and we've kind of instituted an annual, I'll call it personnel assessment every year since, and we don't have those same discussions where we're looking at a list of 10 or 12 people. It may be a handful of three, if at most.
Which is great, right? Because I mean, hire the best. I don't want to say that rudely, but hire the best, fire the rest, right? I mean, you
Yes.
want to keep the right
Yes.
people around. So, what does it mean to you when you say hire for fit, not for function? What does that really mean? What's the difference?
The function would just be, let's say we were looking for a CNC operator. I don't care that you've had 30 years of CNC experience. If you're a me player or an I
Mm, yeah,
individual, you're not going to work here.
yeah.
We always focus on a team first environment,
You're looking
and
for the
somebody
win.
who's motivated, wants to grow, wants to be part of a team
Yeah.
and be successful. We don't need individual performers here, just like any good sports team, right? And that's what we try and assess. It used to literally be back in the day, they'd come in, check for a pulse, and you go, hey, yeah, great, okay, go start in this area here. Whereas today, COVID aside, when everyone was struggling to get resources, you need to be more selective because you're only going to end up having that discussion right 2 years down the road when you're looking at that personnel list, and now this person bubbles up and says, whoa, why are they still here? What are they doing? Right?
Yep.
Get that out of the way up front as best as you can.
Gotcha. I love it. The we versus me. Love it.
Yes.
What's next for Willington Nameplate?
We're going to continue to grow. We're going to probably look at some acquisitions over the next few years. One of the
Yeah.
big things that just happened, we became a partial ESOP, employee stock ownership.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah,
Okay.
about 45% of the company. We were fortunate to have given to all of us employees, so that's been great, and we'll see how that shifts the mindset a little bit from the individual employees, right? As having more of a vested interest in the outcomes of the organization. So that was great, and just continuing to grow our team. Like I
Awesome.
said, profitability has been a big focus of ours. So we want to continue to improve that so that we can continue to contribute more to the individuals, whether it be through bonuses or raises,
Right.
and continue to invest in more technology. That's another big one, right? With the lack of resources, you got to find other ways to do things that are better, faster, and stronger. And a lot of that is some automation or
Automation
partial
technology.
automation with cobots and other things like that, things that you can assist where it would normally take a person. Well, maybe we could find other alternatives to do that.
Yeah, you bet. Well, we'll have to have a follow-up discussion about acquisitions. I don't know if you know, but that's what I do. So
All right. That's fine.
cool. Um, awesome. So if you were going to hire a CEO, Brett, to take
Mhm.
the reins for your company, what's the one book that you'd require they read before taking over for you?
That was the easiest question you gave me.
Ah,
Love it.
fair enough.
Uh, Good to great by all.
Jim
Well,
Callens.
definitely,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
You
yeah.
know, get the right people on the bus and kick the rest, the ones that aren't the good fits, right? Get them off the bus. And you got
Yeah.
to, it's best not to even let them on the bus, but if they happen to be on it, just make sure it's a short trip and get them off as soon as possible because your team will be better for it. Just like we said a few minutes ago, you could deal with the short-term pain,
Right.
long-term gain, right?
Right. Yep. I'm convinced. Well, first of all, a fantastic book. I would probably venture to say it's one of the best business, if not the best business book out there. But OG, right? It seems like that book was written, and then so many other business books and concepts. People will take one small segment of a chapter in there
Yes.
and put their own flavor to it, and then write a book on it. So
Yep.
it's kind of very funny like that. Um, Awesome. Well, Brett, let me take a few seconds and a few minutes and just summarize some of my key takeaways from our time together today. One is, when you came there as a new CEO, you observed for a while and you saw that there wasn't much of a structure in place. And how you did that was really you identified there was these real communication gaps between management, goals, priorities, and between the people on the floor, just every day, your team members, and there was just a lack of alignment there. And so you identified that, and then you implemented a lot of structure on how we operate as a business, how the alignment, the vision, and the mission is carried through, creating that culture so that everybody's kind of rowing in the same direction, right? And I think
Mhm.
that's from Jim Collins as well. You
Yeah.
implemented an annual strategic planning session. You guys do that every January. And this waterfall concept, I love that. You start with the executive team, as it should, right? And the vision, the guiding the direction of the company. Then you go down next level, bringing in the middle managers, and then from there, an all hands meeting. On top of that, you have maintaining that relationship with your key people. You have monthly one-on-ones with your leadership team. And at the end of it, which I love, is very humbling, is, what can I do better for you? This isn't just about them. What can I do better? And you ask that every month.
Mhm.
And my last major takeaway is this concept of hire for fit, not function. And I love the culture, we versus me. I mean, it's so simple, we versus me thing. And it's really true. When people talk, are they talking in terms of literally I and things I've done and their personal accomplishments versus what we have done as a team? So I love that. Brett, if there was one takeaway that you'd really want the audience to absorb from our time together today, what would that be?
Be humble, learn
Mm,
often, and don't be afraid to get your hands dirty.
okay. Yeah, it's interesting. I see many times CEOs try to back away very quickly and have the rest of the team do something, and they forget kind of where they came from and
Mhm.
how much it means to the rest of the team for you to roll up your sleeves, sit down next to them, and experience what they're experiencing and help.
Yep.
Yeah. Very cool. Well, Brett, if any of our listeners want to reach out and get a hold of you for perhaps there's a company out there that would like to use your services or any
Mhm.
questions from today on your leadership management structure, things you've done, what's the best way they could do that?
Definitely, they could reach in through my LinkedIn profile, which is under my name, Brett Greene. But also, I don't mind if people want to email me directly here at bgreene, Greene, at wnpinc.com.
Awesome. Well, Brett, thanks again for being on the show. There's a lot of great advice in there for our next level leaders.
I appreciate you having me. Thanks so much, Patrick.
You bet, Brett. And for the listeners out there, please hit the like and subscribe button and help us spread the word about what we're doing. We're helping the next generation of CEOs and leaders be that much more successful. With that, this is your host, Patrick Rogers, and we'll see you in the next episode. Thanks a lot.